I am reunited with this absolutely beautiful and one of my favorite actresses of this current generation, Triptii Dimri, for a solo interview. So huge congratulations on Animal, Triptii. It's incredible.
Thank you. It's always lovely talking to you.
Oh, the
I'm great. I'm
pleasure
this.
is
Yeah.
always mine, honestly. It's so wonderful. Look, Tripti, I'm gonna go straight into it. I mean, look, there was a sense of, I would say, familiarity because Saurabh Sachdeva, who you kind of trained with, in your initial days as an actor, you share screen space with him. Bobby Deol, when you first featured with, I think, in what Poster Boys,
First
even
of
though
all.
you don't have much screen time in Animal with him, but
Mhm.
still he was there. But also the role you did was, of course, it's really pushed the envelope of sorts. There was a sense of familiarity but newness. How did
Yeah.
you find yourself as an artist balancing and finding yourself into this crazy world of Sandeep Reddy Vanga?
I mean, initially when I was signed for the project, there was too many things that were going on in my head. I was nervous, I was excited, and whenever you sign a new project or whenever you are, going to work with a new director and trying to understand their language, it's always you're always nervous. You're always on the edge. You're always, um, you know trying to find a balance between what they're trying to say and what your understanding is as an actor of the craft. And I had a limited screen time, so I had like good only 5 7 days to find that balance, to find my voice and to understand what he wanted to say through Zoya in the film. So it was a bit challenging, but I was in a way happy that I was in a safe space, and we had a few meetings before the project started, where we spoke about just life in general. He asked me how my experience has been working in the industry, and he told me what he's gone through and how he's become what he's become today. And when he explained Zoya's character, and then he explained Zoya's character to me, and he was, what I really was happy about, that he, in the first meeting itself, he was so honest with me, and he said that it's not a meaty role, that you're only going to be there for, 10 minutes or 5 minutes. And it's up to you whether you want to say yes to it or no to it. But this is the character, and it's a negative character. Um, and he explained what Zoya is going to be doing in the film to me. And it was an immediate yes for me, because I was like, I want to be working with honest people. I want to be working with people um, who are honest from the get go. And there's no, you're not trying to guess what the other person is trying to say. It's on your face. And on the set also, it was like that. I think as a director, he gives you a lot of freedom to express, just like how Anvita used to do with, Qala or Bulbbul. There was a lot of freedom given to us. Yes, you do workshops, you discuss the character, the work is done before you're on set. So on set, you just, you obviously know your lines when you reach the set, but it's just that as an actor, they don't come and be like, no, dude, say this line this way, or, behave, now sit like this, or look at him like this. No, it was all, this is the intention of the scene, this is what you have to do, now you go and do it. And if I find something, I'll come and tell you, I'll give you the information if it's needed. And he's also, he would always, after calling cut, call me to the monitor, and his BGM was ready when we were shooting. And
Uh-huh.
it was a surprise for me as well, because when I watched the film in theaters and I heard the BGM, and I was like, this was the music piece he played on set. I mean, it was all ready while he was shooting. That's how much, prepared he is when he's shooting. And every time he would call cut, he would call us to the monitor and ask every single one of us, what do you think? What do you think can be done about it? So he's
Yeah.
open to, opinions of others, and he works like that, like he likes to work in a group, and likes to take advice from everybody, from the actors. So that kind of creates a safe space for you as well. You feel confident, you feel like my opinion matters. And like, he is interested in um, trying to know what I'm feeling as an actor in this situation, and that makes all the difference. And I wish I had more scenes with my acting coach. I was so happy the day when I was shooting with him, because I remember not knowing anything about acting after
Uh-huh.
Laila Majnu. And then he's the guy who introduced me to acting. Because of him, I fell in love with acting, and that day I got to share screen space with him. So it was such a wonderful feeling. And in the end, we are actually in the same frame, both of us. And I
Yes.
looked at like, this is so special. Like, I feel so good.
Right. And do you know what the amazing thing is, Tripti? Number one, it takes guts and courage as an artist to do something like this. So again, I just want to re-emphasize that and just say how proud I am for you to do this
Thank
because
you. Thank
I
you for saying
genuinely
that.
no, but of course, it takes a certain amount of grit and courage within you as well. In fact, I want to ask you actually about that. Because we were talking about Sandeep and the way he, really kind of made you offer that sense of comfort to you. Is that what
Yeah.
really gave you that courage and that confidence to really go all out for this role, even though it was a small one?
Yeah, I mean, that makes all the difference. And, I was talking to you about my first few meetings with him. That is when he told me that there is going to be a scene like this where I see you like this. And he gave me references and he said, we are absolutely okay if you're uncomfortable, we'll make sure that your comfort comes first, then everything, right? So make sure that you're comfortable. And if at any point you feel that this is not going right or you want to do it another way, we'll do that. So when that happens now, then you're like, okay, you're in a safe space and you feel like giving your 200%. And honestly, that's our job. The day I decided to be an actor, the day we sign a film, it's our job to give our 100% to the film, to the director, because it's his vision, it's his story. You're a part of it, right? You're not the one taking calls. You're not the one saying this scene is going to happen that way. It's not your story. You're a part of that story, and you have to do your bit in it, and that you can do only by giving your 100%. And this is something we also, I also learned from Saurabh Sachdeva, who's my acting coach, where I was once struggling with the character, and he said, you know what, you're not being able to do this because you're judging your character a lot. And I know as a person, you're completely different. The character you're playing, you're not that person. You're a different person. But it's your job as an actor to, make us feel like you're not Tripti, you're this person. And once you're able to crack that, you're sorted. And he said that it's difficult, sometimes you do judge your characters because it's a different perspective. Your
Exactly.
life is in
True.
different, your character's life, you only see them for 2 hours in a film, right?
Yeah,
But
of
as
course.
an actor, you have to build an entire life for your character.
Hmm.
You have to know their childhood, you have to know their teenagers, you have to know what kind of people they're surrounded by, what are the thoughts that play in their mind. All of this you have to know to be able to play those characters, to be able to live those characters, I would say. And if you're judging them, then you're gone. Then people will be able to see that judgment in your eyes, and your character will fall flat. Then you're not just you're doing justice to acting.
Sure.
Um, so yeah, it was a great lesson, I would say, given to me by him, and I've always kept it in mind. I've always made sure that whoever I play, whatever I play, even if I'm killing people or even if I'm, abusing someone, I
Yeah.
make sure that it judging it as Tripti. I may not do it as Tripti, but as the character, I need to have a justification for that in my head.
Yes, exactly. No, very, very beautifully articulated. And I think it's so important. And I feel like, again, when it comes to some of the themes that the film revolves around, again, when we talk about the misogyny and toxic masculinity and all of that, I mean, you've done roles which have really, confronted that in Bulbbul and
Yeah,
Qala. And we've spoken so much at length about that. So I
yeah,
think for you, again, when it talks about their value systems, and obviously where
yeah,
you
yeah.
as 50 have, what do you think has really what have you learned a lot actually over the years? I know it's a thoda sa bhari question, but I think it would be very nice to get your insight actually on that.
I mean, there's so much to learn in life. You're always learning. The minute you get learn one thing, there's another lesson waiting for you. And over the years, I mean, so many things have changed. I would say initially I had very limited knowledge on a lot of things, like every other, like most people, like we are always ignorant, right? Unless it's happening to you, you don't really care too much, you don't really invest. your time in thinking about those things or trying to address those issues. But uh, acting, I would say, kind of gave me helped me understand things better, helped me relate to people and their problems better. Like when I did Bulbbul or when I did Qala, I had no understanding of mental health when I did Qala. Like,
Mhm.
obviously, little understanding, yes, but not in depth. I found out about it only when I got into the skin of the character, and that's when I was like, oh, maybe it is such a dark space to be in that it can, even a slight, very small comment from one person can change your life and can, make you do horrible things to yourself. That awareness was not there earlier. So
Mhm.
you try and be a little sensitive towards people. You try and make sure that earlier you react to anybody and everybody. If someone is being rude to you, you just react immediately. And होता है ना, मतलब ego hurt हो जाता है. But
हाँ बिल्कुल.
after that, I would say I've been very careful because someone can be having a bad day. Someone can be having something terribly wrong going on in their lives,
Hmm.
and it could be an outcome of that. And if you also uh, add to it, then you don't want to be responsible for another person's misery. So those kind of things you start keeping in mind. And of course, after Bulbul, I hardly knew anything about. I mean, obviously, you hear stories when you're a kid that us ghar mein ye ho gaya, someone was beating his wife up, but you don't, see it closely. So it doesn't affect you that much on a regular basis. But when I was playing that character and when it was happening to me, I felt it was very heavy. It was a very heavy feeling. And
Right.
so many people reached out to me after Bulbul and said that thank God for making that film. Thank God for being a part of that film because after watching it, we've had the courage to go and stand up to things like that. Like if something like that was happening in the family, we could go to the person and talk to him about it,
Yeah.
which they didn't have the courage to do earlier. And the movie helped them do that, which again is an amazing thing. And after Animal, again, so many people are talking about like the shoe thing or this thing or that thing. Um, where I say that which I just told you, as an actor,
Uh-huh.
it's my responsibility to be a part of a story and give my 200%. And it's not something that I agree to as Tripti. If someone as Tripti asks me to lick his shoe, I would beat the shit out of that person. But Zoya would do that.
Yeah, true.
She
True.
is someone who's very vulnerable. She is someone who has seen a very harsh side of life. And that is my backstory, which no one knows because it's not there in the film. So she is someone
Hmm.
who's, look at the kind of people she's with. She is
Yeah.
also under a lot of pressure, and she knows what she's doing is the wrong thing. She knows she's not, um, you know, there to be friends with him. She's there. She's there with the motive.
Yeah.
She's also stuck, and then on top of it she falls in love with the person. But I would say it takes courage for a person like that to admit everything and to come out and tell the truth to the
Mhm.
person, and that makes her very courageous.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of lessons hidden in all these films, and you don't realize it while you're playing them because on set there are so many things that you're thinking about, your performance, your this and that. But when the film is done, when the film is out, you sit back and think about these characters, and then you're like, wow. And I honestly feel that acting has helped me heal as a person because I am very reserved as a person. And I think these experiences on set with my directors, with my co-actors, and these films have kind of helped me, ask myself those important questions as
Hmm.
Tripti, and made me understand a lot of things about life. And there's been a lot of healing, I would say. With every film, I only feel that I have grown, not as an actor, but I would say as a person, definitely.
I feel that. Tripti, I really feel that actually. Like since I first met you to now, there's been such an immense growth in you as a person. I was gonna ask you actually, because when you do these very heavy roles, and I'm gonna talk a bit more about like your career and the sort of the characters that you've played, which I think is such a unique perspective actually, because there is a sense of, actually, I'm going to ask this because, there's a sense of beauty attached with your roles, but then
Mhm.
also with a very darkness where there's also a sense of unpredictability.
Yeah,
You can't sort of gauge where it's
the
gonna go,
character.
what the path. Exactly. So what do you think it is that, directors are going so gaga over you in approaching you for such roles?
I think I find such characters very interesting. I mean, when I started off, I had, as I told you, no knowledge of acting. I was just, giving my lines, and that's about it. And I remember having this conversation with my director once, Sajid Ali. He asked me, "What kind of an actor do you want to be?" And I
Yeah.
told him, and because, every day on set, I would feel that, oh, I wish I knew acting. I wish I knew acting. Because Avinash, such a great actor, like, he would, deliver his lines and he would be so good. And I would just feel bad for me that why don't I know anything about it? Like, why didn't I learn before
Mm.
signing? And he could see that on my face, and he asked me one day, he said, "What kind of an actor do you want to be?" And I told him that I don't want people to look at me and say, "What a pretty girl," or la, la, because that's what people talk about. I mean, that is, and it gets annoying after a point, because you're like, just see what kind of work I've done, and talk about it a little. And that's what I told him, that when people see my work, I want them to feel good about it, and I want them to appreciate me for my work.
Yeah.
And that only happened. Laila Majnu, yes, it happened, but majorly it happened after Bulbbul. Um, until then, also, I was just figuring things out. I was not sure whether I was good or bad. Every day I would ask Anvita whether it was good for her or not, and she was like, "Just trust me, I know where it's going." But I was still unsure as an actor about what I was doing on set. And when the film came out, and when I started getting love and appreciation from people, that's when I gained little confidence in me as an actor. And I thought, okay, I immediately went back to that conversation, and I was so
Mm.
happy. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think it's a process, and
Oh.
it's. I think since then I've realized that these are the kind of. I don't ever want to be in a situation where I'm um, comfortable as an actor, and I think I am that person. If I find
Sure.
comfort somewhere, then gone. Then
Mm.
I feel like I will lose motivation to act also. So that is where I make sure that I try and look for roles that are a little different from the previous roles, because otherwise, what's the fun? Otherwise, the day you think that you know it all, you're gone.
And
You always have to keep learning. You always have to keep growing. And with every film, I make sure that uh, you know I do something different, because it's
oh.
very easy to kind of get into the same pattern of acting. And my biggest worry with Qala was that, because I thought, okay, same director, dark character, it could go in the same zone. And every day I would ask Anvita and said, it's not the same as Bulbul. I'm not
Yeah,
doing
I
it the
remember
same
we spoke about
way.
that. I
Yeah,
remember.
but it's such a tricky thing. And I mean, tomorrow I might, like, do something similar. But my idea is to I make sure that I'm aware of it, that I, try and pick projects that are a little different, that, challenge me as an actor. That is why Zoya, I was excited about, because, Sir told me that you have those intentions inside, but I don't want to see that on your face. I don't want the audience to see that. I want the audience to see innocence, to see love, but with all those intentions inside,
Yeah.
which made it very interesting. And I was like, yes, this is something I want to do.
And is that what hopefully we can see in Mere Mehboob Mere Sanam Dekhi Ki Kasam Wo Wala video? Is that something possibly different we could see, like from what we've seen you do before as well?
It's a different role. It's a very different role. I mean, yeah, it'll be a surprise. It was a surprise for me. It was challenging because I've never done anything like that before.
Okay.
And honestly, I had gotten comfortable with sitting and crying and all of that. I had got comfortable, and I was like, okay, this comes easy to me, because you've worked on it so much that it becomes a part of you, and then you're like, okay, this is something, this emotion you've cracked. Now you have to crack another emotion, and it was challenging. Like every day on set, was as an actor was a struggle, because I was like, it's just a completely different person from me. So yeah, but it would be very different for the audiences, I would say.
Oh, amazing.
Anuj, we'll have to
Yes.
end this interview.
Absolutely. No, well, on that note, Tripti, thank you so much for joining me on filmishilmy.com. It was so good to catch up with you, and I'm so glad we could finally do another solo interview after 3 years, and I'm so happy with
Yes,
the success you're
we'll do
having.
another
You're a
one soon.
sensation. I mean, you're a sensation now. I mean, it's wonderful. I mean, I've loved you since then anyway, but for me to see this growth, it's amazing. So well
Yeah.
done and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Anuj.